Democrats and Republicans will do more than just choose candidates in Tuesday's primary election, as the choices they make will set their party's direction for education and transportation, disputes over immigration, and demographic change. The issue that dominated last year's legislative session is back, as Republicans now ask voters to weigh in on whether transgender people's use of public restrooms should be restricted. And while heart disease remains the leading cause of death for non-Hispanic whites, Latinos are more likely to die of cancer, with Latino cancer rates skyrocketing 72% over the last 15 years. Good morning. Those are your headlines from ExpressNews.com. I'm Chance Dorling with your Express News briefing for Monday, March 5th. Brought to you this morning by North Park Mazda, the #1 Mazda dealer in Texas last month. Tuesday, Democrats and Republicans will choose more than just primary candidates, as each party undergoes a struggle between its left and right wings. Democrats haven't been elected to statewide office in Texas in nearly a quarter century, but their participation has surged in the early primary vote this year, with President Donald Trump credited with driving up turnout among those upset over the Republican president's policies and rhetoric. But despite their winning record in the state, GOP candidates can't afford to be complacent in the current atmosphere. The most competitive statewide GOP primary battles are for offices overseeing the agriculture industry and the future of the Alamo, one of Texas's most venerated sites. Political family dynasty member and land commissioner George P. Bush is in the fight of his young political career with a predecessor of the position who has taken aim at Bush's ambitious plan to reimagine the cradle of Texas liberty. Former State Senator Jerry Patterson, who also put a spotlight on the Alamo while being land commissioner, is leading the charge for those who object to some aspects of Bush's plan for the shrine into a management process criticized as secretive and needlessly complex. And while Bush has made some changes in the process, they haven't been enough to satisfy the opposition. In the agriculture commissioner race, former lobbyist Trey Blocker is targeting gaffe-prone incumbent Sid Miller, who is being forced to revisit such controversies as a state-paid trip where he got a controversial but legal medication known as a Jesus shot that supporters say takes away pain for life. But Blocker has proven to not always present a sensible front himself, starring in an online campaign video where he appears in front of the hanging bodies of feral hogs to tout his endorsement by the Texas Hog Hunters Association, inexplicably punctuating his comments by stabbing one of the already dead hogs. Republican Governor Greg Abbott is already planning past the primary he's certain to win to face a Democratic challenger with far less resources, working to get big support from Hispanic voters who make up a strong and growing part of the state's population. But that's not all the governor has been up to. A legislative fight among Republicans in San Antonio is one of three that will showcase whether Abbott has the power to oust GOP lawmakers who challenged him over the appointment of big donors to state boards and commissions. 9 Democrats are battling for the chance to challenge Governor Abbott, with the bulk of the attention going to 2 candidates with starkly different profiles and credentials. Former Dallas County Sheriff Lupe Valdez, who embarked on a law enforcement career after being raised by migrant workers, to become the first woman, Hispanic, and lesbian elected to Dallas County Sheriff, and Houston businessman Andrew White, son of the late Democratic former Governor Mark White, who has positioned himself as a moderate who would be the best candidate to attract like-minded voters and compete against Abbott in November. But neither Democrat has raised big money to get out a message in the primary or compete against the $41 million plus that Governor Abbott has on hand. U.S. Representative Beto O'Rourke is the star among Democratic statewide candidates, whipping up enthusiasm around Texas and raising millions of dollars, as he's expected to easily win the Democratic nomination to take on Senator Ted Cruz in November. Statewide, Democrats have fielded candidates for nearly 90% of seats in the majority Republican legislature, with specific goals for areas held by the GOP but won by Hillary Clinton in 2016. If you thought the bathroom bill debate was over, think again. The issue that dominated last year's legislative sessions has returned in the form of the Republican Party asking primary voters to weigh in on whether transgender people's use of public restrooms should be restricted. But the ballot proposition doesn't actually use the word transgender. instead asking whether Texas should protect the privacy and safety of women and children in restrooms in schools and government buildings. Citing a potential for economic boycotts and harm to vulnerable transgender people, last year Republican House Speaker Joe Straus of San Antonio successfully fought efforts by Governor Greg Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. But Straus isn't seeking re-election and won't be back for the 2019 legislative session, giving those both for and against the legislation reason to weigh in on whether the issue should be pursued with potentially more likelihood of success. The bathroom measure is just one of 11 primary ballot propositions on the Republican ballot, one less than the Democrats' 12 ballot propositions dubbed the Texas Bill of Rights, that promote issues like universal health care and chipping away at crushing student debt. Both parties' ballot initiatives are only non-binding propositions that can't change the law, but do serve as a way to shape the party's message and let leaders know if voters want an issue to be addressed. For additional coverage on both parties' March 6 ballot initiatives from San Antonio Express News writer Peggy Fekak, visit our website, expressnews.com. And while heart disease remains the leading cause of death for non-Hispanic whites, cancer in Latinos has increased almost 75% in about the last 2 decades, easily making it the #1 killer of U.S. Latinos. While cancer replaced heart disease as the group's #1 health issue in 2009, from 2000 to 2014, Latino cancer rates increased by 72%, and current research predicts that by 2030, cancer rates will climb by 142%. As cancer is a disease that occurs most often in older Americans, part of that increase is due to the aging of U.S. Latinos. But for reasons researchers don't yet understand, some cancers like liver, kidney, gallbladder, and gastric cancers strike Latinos more than other U.S. demographic groups. UT Health San Antonio Institute for Health Promotion Research Director Dr. Amelie Ramirez says while researchers once only collected data for whites, blacks, and others, studies now include Latinos and subgroups of Latinos. And researchers are in the early stages of investigating why Latinos are being diagnosed with liver, stomach, gallbladder, and other cancers at higher rates, as seen directly in San Antonio and South Texas, with data pointing out that fewer Latinos get routine screenings due to fear and denial. Latinos are also diagnosed in the later stages of disease and are less likely to survive, meaning early detection and treatment are key. And that's your Express Briefing for Monday, March 5th from expressnews.com. Brought to you this morning by North Park Mazda, the #1 Mazda dealer in Texas last month. I'm Chance Storland.